Missouri has 68 delegates up for grabs tonight. Senator Bernie Sanders had strong support there in 2016. He narrowly lost the state's primary, but still clinched 35 of its delegates. This time around, Sanders will be going head-to-head with Joe Biden. The former vice president is currently leading in terms of endorsements from local officials. For the latest on the race, let's bring in Jason Rosenbaum. He's a political reporter for St. Louis Public Radio. Jason, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Senator Sanders had a strong showing in Missouri in 2016, despite running a lean campaign there. Do you see him pulling close to Joe Biden or beating him there?
Bernie Sanders needs to come close to Joe Biden or beat him in Missouri. I understand that Missouri doesn't have as many delegates as Michigan does, but it does hold a lot of symbolic importance for Sanders. If he gets defeated decisively in a state that he almost beat Hillary Clinton in 2016 with a lot less money than he has now, then it's a signal that the momentum that Biden had is not a fluke, and it's withstanding in a state where Sanders should be doing pretty well.
Well, Biden has picked up a lot of endorsements in the state. Who is endorsing him and why?
Just today, State Auditor Nicole Galloway revealed on Twitter that she voted for Biden. Galloway is the likely Democratic gubernatorial nominee. The last Democratic governor, Governor Jay Nixon, our former Governor Jay Nixon, also endorsed Biden after endorsing Michael Bloomberg. And Biden also has the support of St. Louis Mayor Lyda Krewson, St. Louis Comptroller Darlene Green, former U.S. Senator Gene Carnahan. Most of the high-level Missouri Democratic officials are endorsing Biden, and a lot of African-American officials are endorsing Biden, too. And even though Sanders supporters say that they have made inroads in the African-American community here in Missouri, if Biden continues his momentum with Black voters, as he has in other states like Virginia, like South Carolina, like Alabama, then it may not be the close result that Sanders wants. It may be the decisive win that actually hasn't happened in an open Democratic race in quite a while here in Missouri.
Well, are there a couple of issues, Jason, that Missouri Democrats are especially interested in when it comes to picking a candidate?
I think that there are two specific issues. One is the ability to defeat Donald Trump. And I think that whether you talk with either Sanders supporters or Biden supporters, that is paramount. But I do think that Sanders supporters are honing in on health care. The concept of Medicare for all is very appealing to people, especially younger people. Both candidates have really been honing in on restricting guns. Sanders, in particular, at his speech in St. Louis yesterday, talked about his support for overhauling the criminal justice system, which is popular with a lot of activists here, even 5 years after Michael Brown's shooting death in Ferguson. So there are a lot of individual issues that I think both candidates are paying attention to. But I think that the primary thing that Democrats here want to know is which candidate is going to be more successful at defeating Trump and which candidate is going to be helpful for down ballot candidates like Galloway and state legislative contenders.
Well, we know African Americans make up a large part of Missouri's Democratic base, and African Americans in other states have largely voted for Biden so far. Do you think it could be different in your state?
Some of Sanders' supporters, including congressional candidate Cori Bush, who is African American, believe that Sanders' campaign has made inroads in the African American community. But you're right. Sanders did not do well in predominantly African-American areas in St. Louis or Kansas City. I think if you continue to see what you saw in other states with large African-American populations replicate itself in Missouri, then I don't really know if there's a path to victory for Sanders. Now, again, I don't think Sanders necessarily has to win Missouri outright, but he needs to come close like he did in 2016, where the delegate count is relatively even. As I'm sure most of your viewers know, just because you win a state doesn't mean you get the most amount of delegates. If it's very close, Sanders and Biden could have similar delegates. But if it's not close and Biden wins by double digits, then it's not only a psychological defeat for Sanders, but it's not going to help him in the delegate count.
Right. Well, Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas was turned away from the polls when he tried to vote today. The poll workers said they could not find his name in the system. Is it possible that other voters might be turned away from the polls today? Do you think this is indicative of a larger problem in any way?
I haven't heard that. When I was looking at Twitter today, I did see a couple of people saying they had some issues in St. Louis County. Um, and my understanding, too, is that Mayor Lucas is going back to vote later today. This often happens in Missouri where there are some individualized issues in polling places, but I haven't heard of like widespread issues. There have been issues before in St. Louis County a couple years ago where there were widespread ballot shortages and that affected some municipal elections. I haven't heard anything on that level, but obviously, when the mayor of Kansas City says that he's been turned away from voting, that's obviously going to get a lot of attention and bring up some relevant questions.
Well, finally, you touched on this a moment ago, but how might a Sanders or Biden win impact candidates running for state elections in November?
I think that it could affect it quite a bit. No one really here is expecting either Biden or Sanders to win Missouri. Missouri is no longer the competitive bellwether state it was, say, in 2000 or 2004, or even 2008. But I think there is an expectation that either Biden or Sanders has to do better than Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton lost by almost 20 percentage points in 2016. That doomed high-level down-ballot candidates like Chris Koster, who was running for governor, or Jason Kander, who was running for the U.S. Senate. And I think that if Biden or Sanders lose Missouri by 5 to 10 percentage points, then someone like Galloway could have a chance against Governor Mike Parson. If it's 15 to 20 again, I don't think there is any conceivable way that Galloway wins. And the other down ballot candidates and the state legislative candidates would probably lose too. So there is a lot at stake for Missouri Democrats with this presidential decision, even though the state is not going to be in the competitive battleground category.
All right, Jason Rosenbaum for us. Jason, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.